Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. Really great and an honor. My name is Seronei. I have so many complicated names. Let's just call me Seronei. I come from Kenya. I am a Gen X, father of Gen Z. So I have 3 Gen Zs, and so you can imagine the tension sometimes in the house. What I'm going to do today is to speak to you about something that is very African and also global. In Africa, we love to give. So I'm going to talk to you about a topic that is, written here, from black tax to business capital, transforming African diaspora remittances. One word, diaspora means people living abroad. Germans who live in the US are diaspora Germans. Africans who live in Germany are diaspora Africans. And remittances is basically money that we send back to our country when we live abroad. And I'm going to drop to you a couple of numbers. The first one is what you see on the left. That's 100.1. That is the amount of money that Africans in diaspora send back to their countries of origin every year, and in particular in 2024. 100 billion US dollars. That's not trivial. The second number you will see is 12.07. That is the growth of the remittances in that 3-year period between 2021 to 2024. So there has been a double-digit growth in the amount of money we send to Africa. What does that money really translate to? If you think about 100 billion US dollars, that is close to 3,000 US dollars being sent to Africa every second. As the clock ticks, 3,000 euros or 3,000 US dollars is going. So that's not trivial money. And if we look at the global picture, it's even huge. 900 billion US dollars was sent to the whole globe from people who live abroad. Indians who live in the US or UK or Germany, people who live in the US and send money to Mexico, 900 billion US dollars. And that translates to 30,000 US dollars per second. That kind of money. And what is actually 900 billion US dollars? That is the GDP of Poland. And Poland is not a poor country. So the power of money that is moving from diaspora, from the people who live abroad, that send money to their countries back home, is that amount of money. And this has actually changed the picture. For a long time, we used to depend on foreign aid, money coming from countries like Germany, UK, USA, to support development in Africa and the rest of the world. If you look at this image that I'm showing at the moment, you see that aid, what we call direct aid, and direct foreign investment, FDI. This is, companies in Germany or in the UK or in the US investing in Africa are currently lower than the money that is sent by the diaspora community living abroad. Yeah, the one in blue is representing the remittances that are sent by the community in Africa in US dollars. So we cannot be ignored, right? And I'm going to show you, for example, this picture. What you see here is the top 3, or I would have mentioned here that the money that is going to Africa is actually is tracked, right? So it's not just being sent, it's being monitored. And like I said, remittances are now outpacing money that is sent for development, which is sometimes abused because of corruption and bureaucracy. And this is money which is going directly to family and friends from people like me who live abroad. And this is the picture of the countries in Africa that receive the money from Africans who live abroad. Egypt receives the most amount of money, but it is still lower than if you compare with India, for example. Last year, India received 123 billion US dollars. Egypt is only receiving about 23 billion US dollars. I have highlighted Kenya on that, with the arrow. And in Kenya, for example, Kenya received 5 billion US dollars from the Kenyans who live abroad. And what does that mean? A lot of you will hear about safari. When you talk about Africa, you hear safari, that means tourism. You hear about coffee, you hear about tea. The truth is, the money that Kenyans sent to Kenya from abroad was much more than the money obtained by selling any agricultural product, including that received from tourism. It is that massive. 650 billion Kenya shillings. That is the amount of money that went there. That means we who live outside Kenya, we are sending about 20,000 Kenya shillings every second. And 20,000 Kenya shillings is the salary of a primary school teacher. So every second, a diaspora person is actually paying off the salary of a primary school teacher. And to make it even much understandable, the budget for Kenya last year, in 2024, they allocated 650 billion Kenya shillings to education. In other words, those Kenyans who live abroad, including me, we can basically fund the Kenyan education system for 1 year. That is the magnitude of the sort of money that we send to Africa every time, in that case. And I'm going to just highlight here what that money does. You know, a lot of us who live abroad, we are so happy we have healthcare, we have a functioning healthcare system, we have scholarships, access to Förderungen. I saw at one of the booths that there was a, stipendium and all this. The money we send to Africa is funding 3 key things. One is the money that is used every day to buy stuff that families need. Sugar, tea, milk, bread, and we also help these families to pay for medical treatment. My mother will be going for treatment tomorrow. Her health insurance is not working. I have to get money to send it to her to pay for that service in that country. So this is really a huge thing. And we are spending about 75% of the remittance, the money we send. We spend 75% of that money on consumption. It's only 25% of that money that we can call investment. I need to buy a house in Kenya when I retire. I want to go and retire to my own home. I need to buy some piece of land. Only 25% of the money we send go to such things. And even that money is abused. Because sometimes we send the money to family, friends, and they are like, well, this guy lives abroad, he's my cousin. I can use his money for whatever I want. He will not do anything to me. And we have so many cases of that in Africa. So the question I'm asking today, which is not rhetorical, but factual, is what if the money we send is not going into consumption? What if that money were actually business venture capital that is going to build these people a business that at some point they would get free from us so that they don't keep asking, send me, send me, send me, right? And I'm going to give you one example. This is a story of a widowed mother of 4 from somewhere in the Rift Valley. You've heard of the Rift Valley, right? She lives very close to the Maasai. Her husband died, left her with 4 children. She didn't have whatever to do to make sure that she puts food on the table. And she had an idea. Those of you who know animals, a cow, a sheep, and even a dog, right? I am in the pet food industry. If you left the poop, it gets warm and releases some energy. And she thought, what if I took the goat poop and put in a bag and then inserted some eggs in it and allowed the energy in the rotting poop to incubate the eggs? And she did that. And what you see below the picture is that she was actually able to hatch the chicks using goat manure. So when I received this story, a friend of mine had read the story in Afghanistan, and he said, Seronei, I'm going to give $300 to this lady because I want to help her. And I knew of what I'm going to talk to you about today, another partnership. And I said, don't send 300 because 300 will go there as 300. Let's make it 1,200, right? So we made it 1,200 because I spoke to some friends in Germany, and we transformed that money using an avenue called WeDo, and you have seen some flyers that you have here with you. And I raised another 300, and we managed to raise about 700 euros. And then we started a project for her, and this is what you see as a result. The before on the left was what she was doing. And what you see on the right is what she managed to do with Kenya shillings 200,000, which is slightly less than 1,500 euros. And today, she has an automatic incubator. She doesn't need to use goat manure to hatch the chicks. She has a modern poultry house. It looks like a joke to you, but that is very modern by Kenyan standards. And now she can afford about 100 euros per month, which is the salary of a kindergarten teacher in Kenya. And so we've been able, through mobilizing with WeDo, to bring her respect and honor. And so that brings me to WeDo. What is WeDo? WeDo is a partnership, right? Forget about the business on the slide. What I want you to focus on are the four corners, right? So at the top is me as a diasporan, and any other Kenyan as a diasporan, any other African as a diasporan. We give money, right? We say, okay, here is my 500, which I usually send to you, mama. But this time round, I'm going to give you another 500 euros so that you have 1,000 in total, because my mother doesn't have her own money. So I have to give her what she would give, and I also give what I would be giving. So both of us, we raise about 1,000 euros. And then we go to WeDo and say, hey, my mama wants to grow vegetables. It doesn't need to be a super complex project, right? She wants to grow vegetables, or she wants to keep chicken, or she wants to do whatever else is approved to be used for this kind of money. So the moment we raise 1,000 euros, when WeDo says, yes, we are going to support you, WeDo would match that amount of money by giving us another 1,000 euros. So suddenly, my 500 plus my mama's 500 becomes 2,000 euros, right? And that is the money that is able to transform lives, so that at some point, I don't need to pay taxes in Germany and pay black tax in Africa. I can free myself. And that is only possible because there is this magic. The beautiful thing, and what you see on the right side of the slide, is WeDo doesn't just give you money. Because a lot of these people have no business acumen, right? They don't know what it means to keep records. They don't know what it means to talk to customers. They don't know what it means to process the food and all this other stuff. What WeDo does is WeDo has employed or has contracted some coaching organizations that have business acumen, and they will go there and talk to my mother and say, look, everything you sell, you need to write down. Everything you buy, you need to write down. So that at the end of the day, you know how much you've spent versus how much you've received. Because we always, and if you're a business person, you know, sometimes you get a lot of money and you get excited, you forget about what have I spent to get this money, right? And so WeDo provides the coaching. The beautiful thing is, and this is, you know, the theme of this session was digitization. WeDo provides a digital platform. As a diaspora, and I'm able to see what did my mother buy today. And is there a receipt? She uploads the receipt. At the end of the day, I'm able to track the investment. I can see what has happened. And WeDo Coach is also looking at that. And we will be able to manage that money and prevent it from abuse, right? This is just a picture of where the WeDo model plays. Play in about 9 countries in the north, in Europe, Germany, of course, being the leader. And thank you very much, the BMZ, for doing this. We don't take it for granted. And you know, we have Norway, we have Sweden, we have Denmark, we have Belgium, Netherlands, France, Austria, and Switzerland. Anybody who lives in those 9 countries can participate by supporting somebody in 5 or is it 6 African countries that are in blue on that. And you will see a couple of numbers there. WeDo has spent around about 11.2 million euros in supporting Africans that send money to Africa by doubling the amount of money. That means the 11 million we sent became 22 million because of WeDo. So that is the model which is working. And personally, I've been involved because I want to get free from my family and friends and the people who think they want to tax me. So what we have done in my ecosystem of friends and family is to develop a number of products and projects. And this is a summary, just a snapshot of the projects. We have about 48 now. We've mobilized close to around 23 million Kenya shillings. And WeDo has given us almost an equivalent of that as well. So we've gone from people who do poultry keeping to a lady who is doing vegetable drying. So if you went to Africa and you want to get, you know, traditional African vegetables, they can also be sent here. You can get dried vegetables. One of our colleagues in Munich, a friend, actually one of the first people I assisted to come to Germany, she went back to her country and started a daycare system, right? So people who are busy, they can drop their children there or their babies, and then they can pick them later. And we have baking businesses. What you see in the middle on the left, that is a super fantastic model of sustainability, where we have a business where I'm involved myself, that we've installed solar energy. We run a poultry business with 100% solar energy. We've invested close to 5 million Kenya shillings with support from WeDo of around about 5,000 or so euros. It wasn't a lot, but it is very important because the guy who manages the business for me got a lot of coaching from WeDo. And I now look at records that he keeps. You will see the lady in the middle is actually making and packaging tea in Kenya. And we have all these stories. My friend Frida, who is from the WeDo group in Kenya, she was in Nairobi in Eldoret to open an eye care business because it was supported by my son, Felix, right? So really proud of him, and a young optician in Kenya. And so these are the projects that we've been able to support in my ecosystem. I'm actually super excited because today, my wife's twin sister, my sister-in-law's project, was approved by WeDo. So, and she will be doing climate-smart nurseries. And this is really, really personal because I feel my wife has the obligation to support her, but with that kind of support from WeDo, we will wash our hands and mentor her without having to give money. You will get here a QR code which is leading you to my contact details. I live in Germany. I am a business owner in Germany. I started a very small business and now it's grown. You see some logos there. Those are the businesses I have in Kenya. I'm lucky to have people who are really mindful of, you know, running the business profitably, and part of it is because of what WeDo has done. If you need a lot of information from WeDo, you have the flyers there, and you can also visit their website. Thank you very much for listening to me. Any questions?
Thank you for your...
Wenn ihr was ins Mikro sagt, nimmt eure Kopfhörer, English. When you say something, take out your headphones because otherwise you have an echo.
This is okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I have two questions. The first is, how does WeDo get the money that they put on top of the thing that you are donating or giving? And the second question is, do you like have, if you are like funding something like this food innovation or this tea estate, do you have like the power from here to rule it if you fund it, or is it like just the money that you give? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for. I don't know who would want to answer the first question on where does WeDo get the money. The money comes from the Bundesministerium for something Zusammenarbeit, the BMZ, so the economic ministry in Germany. Very kind, assistance that is going there. I guess it's part of what Germany would do anyway, but this is going specifically to fund this program in a way that allows us to, put it in a different model. And it is being implemented by GIZ. You probably don't know this, but a lot of us who live abroad, we know GIZ. It's a Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit. Yeah, so it's government money coming from Germany. Regarding the regarding the question on whether I have a say on the money I do, I personally make sure that I follow the investors to ensure that they are keeping integrity, because my reputation is on the line. When we create the project for WeDo, it is me who creates, and then I invite them. So WeDo doesn't know them. WeDo knows me as the initiator of the project. So it's actually my project first before I invite them. And so I pay a lot of attention by following. I will not tell you like the business that you see there with the roof and the sun, there's a solar harvesting business. I have 9 cameras on that business. So I don't take it as a joke. I follow everything, basically. So yes, we follow the entrepreneurs. We make sure that they adhere to the ethics, because we do not want the process to be abused. We do not want the money to be abused. And, if people are left on their own, somebody can take the money and go and marry a second wife. We don't want that.
Hi, sorry. Thank you so much for the presentation. Super interesting. I'm wondering, because there's this is a little bit of a different approach to financing. Of course, before there was different tries, or there still are, with like microfinance and so on, which has their own issues of also making people pay back the loans or investments they received, like with a lot of interest. So how is there anything people need to pay back here? Like, how are the interest structured? How flexible are they? Like, in case there's anything happening to the business and so on. And maybe also, what is your personal experience with that? How people can thrive even though they have to pay back money or not? I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's make it very clear. Money is a grant from the German government through the BMZ, through WeDo program. It's not a loan, right? People have to pay back though. And they have to pay back by accountability. They have to show through the receipts and the invoices that the money has been spent, because we have a contract. So when we set up the project, we say, I'm going to buy solar panels, I'm going to buy eggs and incubator, etc. What WeDo wants to see at the end, when the project is approved, is you said you are going to spend 1,000 euros on item A. I want to see the receipt of 1,000 euros against that item. If you do not account for that money, of course, WeDo will come and say, bring back our money, right? So it is a grant, but there are systems to ensure that there is no abuse, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for another question. I said, unfortunately, we don't have time for another question, but will you stay around?
Yes.
So people can ask you. If I can ask, don't stand here, because sometimes it happens if you go to the back and everybody who still has questions can talk to you for a few minutes, and that's very nice. Thank you so much for all the insights that we got.